Now, just to get things out of the air, I have failed at a lot of things. I have failed at being a student. I have failed at entrepreneurship. I have failed at being a salesman. I have failed in attempting to do stocks. So the question is, why am I here? I'm asking the same thing. But who am I? Silly me. Running circles for the truth in my vicinity. Got a vision that I started taking seriously, and I'm the type of kid who dreams of shaking up an industry. It's killing me, but I got a lucid flow. Search for opportunity, make sure it's original. Get the dough, work until I make it to the pinnacle. And I'ma have to hustle, cause I sure as hell ain't living broke. But I don't think it's all about the money. I never follow streams and I never follow dummies who are all about the grease, all about the honeys, all about the weed, smoke, coke, and all the molly. I am hungry, I am driven, and everything in between. This is what it looks like when you're trying to be a king. I can walk with all the paupers and conversate with the fiends. They told me it could happen, now you gotta wait and see. But let me break it down for a minute. Said I'm going in for life, because I know my heart is in this, so I'm about to roll the dice. Start until the finish, I'll be glowing with the lights. It told me it was written in the stars, floating past Jupiter or Mars. We should not abuse it if the universe is ours. In art, only the truth will make you glisten. So find a pot of gold and then you shine just like a prism. If you listen, I can penetrate your soul. I'm a Filipino that is trying to break the mold. I am cold, alone, and cracking. And this the shit you think you know but couldn't imagine. Who is acting fashion? I'm trying to be like Branson and see my life in action. I find it funny that the money can't buy class. It only makes you lonely in a brand new mansion. No, you can't buy passion. And this is all that I got. So I hit him with the flow to put my soul on the spot. I said, this is all that I got. So I hit him with the flow from the soul that I got. So if you've been able to put two and two together, I rap. Thank you. Thank you. I go by the name of Curtismith, and the reason for my name is none other than the beautiful Anne Curtismith. And if you're aware of her success, she is a Platinum Award-winning artist in the Philippines. And me, knowing a lot of musicians, find it kind of ironic because a lot of people are deserving of this title, and yet it is somebody with a voice like hers who has achieved the award. When I came out with my persona, I didn't want people to see me. I wanted them to listen to my music and just internalize it for what it was rather than who I was, and like my music for what it was. And so I decided it would be funny if I named myself Curtismith. But before I even go further into the music, let's talk about my failures, because I have a lot of them. First of all, I was never good in school, ever. I felt like I was a fish being taught how to fly. For me, the traditional educational system in the country expects you to fit a certain mold. And if you do not fit this certain mold, then you are considered a laggard, you're considered lazy, you're considered stupid. And I felt like that because I did not fit the mold. And so I tried to find places where I could fit in. And maybe this is because we're in a third world country that I was able to do this, but starting sophomore year, well, okay, you guys have been to open parties and stuff, like that started like grade 7, right, for me at least. And so by second year high school, drinking and smoking was really normal, and I wanted to go to the next level. I would go to clubs like an Avenue. I'm 15 years old doing this, and I think it's because of the way our society has been structured that a 15-year-old is able to do this. But anyway, I also had issues. I was part of a broken family. My parents got divorced when I was 3. You know, I was in a situation where I could tell my mom I was here, I would tell my dad I was there, and they wouldn't look for me because they didn't talk to each other anyway. So it sucked, but that was my life. And it came to a point where the essence of my being in senior year was like this. And I would spend, for example, my weekly allowance in going out. And in order for me to sustain myself with recess and lunch, I would go to all my friends, to my classmates, and just ask each of them for 5 pesos so that I could support my habit. Which was, it's weird, but I did it, and you know, I was completely against the system, and this happened for a long time up until mid-senior year when my dad passed away all of a sudden. And seeing someone you love, I mean, our relationship wasn't the best, I'll tell you more about it in a bit, but seeing someone you love just, you know, eyes open, blood in his mouth, lifeless, it puts perspective in your life, my life. It put perspective in my life. And at that point in time, I was like, okay, there's really no excuse anymore. I can't do what I've been doing. My relationship with my dad was very rocky because he was a brilliant cinematographer, but he was also an alcoholic. And so he wasn't the role model that I wanted to have, but at the same time, I was reflecting on my life and I was like, I'm even worse than my dad, so what gives me the right to criticize this guy? And so I made the conscious effort to pursue the type of person I wanted to be. And these types of people would be people like Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, and Robert Kiyosaki. Oh, because these people would explain in their books and their interviews that they weren't good in school either. And they did what they had to do to get to the level they wanted to achieve. And I believed in that wholeheartedly. And so what I did after I graduated high school, I was 17, that same year, so that was a year after my dad passed away, my mom left for her master's in London, so I was alone. And I decided, okay, I'm going to be my own man, and I'm going to go to the UANP and make up for all my mistakes and shortcomings, and I'm going to be my own Superman, and I'm going to, do all my classes and study hard. I'm going to do theater because I really enjoyed theater. I'm going to, join the Frisbee team because there were cool people there. And it was fun too. Anyway, I kept doing this, and at the same time, I still felt like an outcast. I was trying to be the best person I could be, but I still felt like an outcast. I was taking entrepreneurship, but I wasn't learning anything about entrepreneurship. So I felt like I was just wasting my time. People say I have like ADHD and whatever. So I don't know what it is. I saw a TED Talk recently, and they called you a multi-potentialist. But yeah, you see that, yeah. And also, like with my frustrations and my hopes, I would make music, just for myself and my best friend. We would make music together. We reached some success. If you can see there, it's like 27,000 views, and that happened in like a month's time. But when we listened to the music at that point in time, even we knew that wasn't the quality of music we wanted to release. And it was just a side thing. We never really thought that it would do anything. I mean, like you even look at the industry today, and it's still the same. It's hard to have hope for the industry. But my friend and I always, my best friend and I, we always, we also looked up to rappers. And one of the rappers we looked up to was Drake. I still look up to him. And at this point in time, he came out with one of his albums, and one of the lines was, "So why am I in class if this is who I'm trying to be like, so I dropped out? Lessons I was taught were quick to fade, soon as I realized that turning papers in won't get me paid." And so I was like, okay, I'm taking up entrepreneurship, but I don't have enough capital for a business. I know that if I invest in stocks, maybe I'll be able to achieve that amount of capital, and so, translate that into my venture. But what happens is, instead of going to UANP, which is a Long Pearl Drive, instead of taking a left, I take a right to the Philippine Stock Exchange. I go in with no agenda. I just want to open a portfolio. And so I find an office, Accord Capital, and they're in the ground floor. That's the only reason why I found them. I walk in, and they help me open up my online portfolio. And so, I get really, really into it. I'm so inspired. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the seminars. I'm going to, learn about fundamental and technical analysis. I'm reading all these books. And so I'm doing well for a while, long enough for me not to care about school anymore and just forget about it. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then reality strikes. And all of a sudden, I am just completely lost. My false sense of self completely shatters. And before I could always tell myself, oh, I'm a student in a prestigious school, I'm in a prestigious university. I could always ask for reassurance from my parents, but none of this was available to me, and so I was just torn. My ego had shattered, and I told this to my mom. I admitted it to my mom because she wasn't here all throughout this time, right? So I call her up and I'm like, Mom, I dropped out of school because I thought I could do stocks and I can't pala. And she goes, okay, you're forgiven, I forgive you. Long story short, I forgive you, but you still need a degree. I don't care where you go, just get a degree. And at that point in time, prior to her leaving, I lived with her in Makati. I would pass Paseo de Rojas to Green Hills, and I would see a house with a banner, and it said, the one school, college personalized, education personalized, non-traditional college. And I would look at it and I'd be like, who the hell would go to that school? This guy, apparently. Funny how life works. So I end up walking in, and I'm given an interview with the dean of the school. His name is Lex Ledesma, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. he knew how much I wanted to succeed in life, and he told me, in order to be successful, you have to first be a master of yourself. And more than just the classes that he taught me, it was the books also that he recommended me. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is like my Bible. It's by Stephen Covey. How to Win Friends and Influence People is not as bad as it sounds. It's by Dale Carnegie. It's a really good book. Don't judge a book by its cover and the title. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. He talks about making a minimum viable product, the build, measure, learn feedback loop. Malcolm Gladwell, Tipping Point, The Stickiness Factor. He talks about the power of context, the law of the few. All of these things I was able to learn because of the mistakes that I made. Which is funny because, again, in hindsight, you can only connect the dots. You can't connect it looking forward, the Steve Jobs thing. Anyway, he also pushed us to just put ourselves out there, and he always pushed us to join competitions. And one of the competitions I joined was called Project Pagsulong, which is a nationwide social entrepreneurship competition. It was by PLDT, RFM, whatever. And I made it pretty far to a point where I was able to learn thoroughly for 9 days in Antipolo about social entrepreneurship. And I fell in love. From someone who was super passionate about just making money, I found a business model where you can make money but also care for the planet and help your people, and I'm like, what? Is for real? You look at all of the, all the publicly listed companies now, and that seems impossible, but because of this bootcamp, I was exposed to sustainable enterprise, social enterprises that are making progress into what could be. And so after the whole bootcamp, I was like 18, so I didn't hand in the financials on time, and it was just bad. Anyway. I wanted to learn some more about it, so I typed in on Google Social Entrepreneurship Philippines, and one of the first links that came out was Gala Kalinga, and I saw that they had a startup business camp. I sign up impulsively. I'm the type of person who does that, and I just go for it. The day we're supposed to go to the farm in Angat, Bulacan, I enter the shuttle and I'm like, am I in the right place? They're all like middle-aged women who are there, and I'm the only guy and I'm the only 20-year-old. So I'm like, maybe, well, I already signed up, I already paid, might as well do it. So we get to Bulacan and I am in awe. Like, the Enchanted Farm, if you guys have never been, you should check it out. I was able to meet all the social entrepreneurs. I was able to learn about the success that Gawad Kalinga has achieved and the goals that they're planning to achieve next. I met Tony Meloto. I was introduced to a book by Thomas Graham called Genius of the Poor. And it gave me hope again for the Philippines. After all of the toxicity that happens in this city, just going somewhere with that much hope and that much progress that has been made is something that I wanted to be a part of. And so I spoke to Lex and I told him, you know what, I really think that this is my calling. Like, this is what I want to do. And this was last year, November. And he was like, okay, go ahead and do your thing, do it, follow your gut. And if you don't think it's for you after a while, then you can always come back to school. And so, around that same time, I was so inspired. I just kept writing music, and at this point in time, Curtismith had just been made. I would just put it on SoundCloud. Wala lang. All of my photos, my face was covered. It gained traction for some reason. And I was invited to perform last November for an event called Buwan Buwan in this place called Black Market. And I was like, this is the perfect goodbye for Manila. I'm wearing my Gawad Kalinga t-shirt, my new boots for the farm, and I'm like, yes, this is my goodbye. So I rap, and I enjoy thoroughly the whole evening. And I guess other people enjoyed as well because Fly Art, Tony and Gisela, they're brilliant people. They invited me to perform for their launch, their product launch. Short background about them. They made t-shirts which started selling in the UK and the US before selling here, and when they launched here, they asked me to perform for them. And that evening, this collective called Logic Club invited me to join them. And it's funny because they're a producer collective. I don't produce at all, I just rap, and yet they asked me. And so I was like, okay, why not? And after meeting them, there were 18 artists at the time. I had never met people with such passion and such dedication for music and a belief that the industry could be something more than it is today. And so with my mentality, I was just like, maybe this is possible. I mean, I saw GK, I saw all of the hope there. Maybe this is another avenue where the Philippines could progress with as well. And so I guess the entrepreneur in me decided, like, kicked in, and like the hustler's mentality was there, and I never said no to any of the shows. I was only paid for like 20% of all of the shows that I did. I was doing at least like one show a week, and I was doing this for 8 months. I just kept doing it. I didn't care. I just loved it. And you know, people started recognizing it. I started gaining traction, also on SoundCloud, to a point where I felt like I had to put out a body of work with proper mixing and mastering, proper recording, and all of this. And so I did that last September 4. The mixtape is called Ideal, under the moniker Curtismith, so if you can check it out, 1S, Curtismith. Anyway, after I released that, I started getting, you know, noticed by other event organizers, magazines, newspapers, and I was just like, whoa, I never thought that this could happen. From making music in my bedroom to performing on stage in a span of a year is unbelievable. And so it's funny that they had to talk about this, like fusing the words, but I thought, you know, use my entrepreneurship and use what I'm doing now. I don't know if it's been coined, but you know, it's entrepreneur. Somebody trying to make something sustainable from following their passions and expressing their truth. That's really all I do when I make my music. I experience things, I translate it into music, and it, for some reason, is able to connect with people on a deep level and motivate them. Certain people, they've spoken to me about it, and this is why I do it. Richard Branson says, there is no greater thing you can do with your life and your work than follow your passions in a way that serves the world and you. And when I do this, I feel like I'm doing that, and I feel like if I'm given more avenues to help more people, especially the people right around me first, who are also just as passionate or even more passionate about music, then let me help them. Let me be an instrument of God. I have a vision, and it's a collective vision. It's not just my vision, that the Philippine industry can progress into something way more than what it is today. Way more than making Ann Curtis the Platinum Award-selling artist. Why not make the people in their bedrooms who are making music such as Crown? You know Crown. He's amazing. He makes music in his bedroom in Future Studio, and he is able to connect to a global audience. He made one song, he launched it, it's called Under Blankets, and it has over 300 plays, which happened in a span of a month. That is the type of success. And this is with no music video, this is with nothing. This is pure talent. And there are a lot more artists like this, and I know these artists, which is why I'm so passionate about pushing them and letting everyone know who these people are. Hopefully including myself, if you guys like my music. But anyway, I'm currently still at a point where I talk to my titos and titas and my friends, and they're like, dude, you rhyme at a club. What do you think this is gonna lead to? You know what I mean? And you know, I see that they see that, but at the same time, I guess they don't see my perspective of things, and they don't see what I've seen, or they don't know the artists that I've been able to hear. And I believe that with this talent that we have, we will be able to compete globally. And if you guys are familiar with Keith Ape, he just had one hit song, and now he is the GQ Man of the Year of Korea. That's crazy. But anyway, although I have all of these hopes, I am still an experiment. I don't know if I can achieve the level of success that I'm told you can reach if you follow your passions, but I'm my own guinea pig. And if I'm able to succeed following my passions, then I can wholeheartedly tell people, you can do the same thing, because I am not anything special. I just did what I was told to do. And it's frightening, but there's a quote by Jimmy Levine, and he says, fear. Fear is a powerful thing. I mean, it's got a lot of firepower. If you can figure out a way to wrestle that fear, to push you from behind rather than to stand in front of you, that's very powerful. And I try to apply that every day in my life nowadays. To push me from behind rather than hinder me and stand in front of me. And if you feel like fear is doing that to you, all I hope that you get out of this is that you take the risk and have it push you forward rather than hold you back. Because ever since I've started doing that, a lot of great things have been happening. I mean, I'm here today talking in front of all of you, and I just hope that I am able to spark something in all of you in some sort of way. But yeah, thank you guys. Take care.